Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the 3% Show. This is episode 5. Episode 5, I believe. I have two wonderful ladies. One which I know from YCO 913, The Wash House. I'm going to go ahead and say it, The Wash House. And a beautiful young lady with great insight. Also, Miss LaVal Ezell, correct?
Correct.
Oh,
You
I
own
did
it.
the Ezell part. Just a little background, and I'm gonna let them do the intro. Tiffani DeVonne, she has been doing wardrobe consulting. She's now in Dallas, Texas. I've watched her IG. I've seen some things that I was like, okay, you got layers, you got textures, you got oversized things with a fitted pencil skirt, you got wings when you spread out, the shirts, the blouses be popping. So that really caught my eye, and finding out that she's a life coach and on IG, she's under Silhouette of a Queen. I love it. I follow it. I'm always pleasantly surprised. And Ms. LaVal, she's a life coach. She models some of the wardrobes. They've been friends for a long time. And after listening to her Sisterhood Strategies, and she's a vlogger too, I was immediately thinking to myself, I can't have one without the other. So ladies, Miss Tiffani DeVonne, Miss LaVal, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Go ahead,
Sure.
Tiffany.
Okay. So again, I'm Tiffani DeVonne, and I am a certified life coach and wardrobe stylist, and I style leaders and influencers in fearless fashions. And I've been styling clients for the last 5 years. I created Say It With Style for leaders, influencers to really take their personal wardrobe to the next level. And that's for whether you're an aspiring leader or an emerging or established leader. You don't want to wait for the opportunity to come before you start trying to figure out if I need a stylist or hair makeup. You want to be ready. So when that curtain draws, you are ready to come forth and just give your A game. And then I also created Silhouette of a Queen last June of 2020. And that is for a powerful and a resilient woman who has yet to be seen, felt, or heard. And through that Silhouette of a Queen platform, I talk about beauty, image, emotional and mental health, sexuality, and so much more topics that any woman of faith would encounter in our modern day society.
Mm. Yes, ma'am. And you, Miss LaVal.
Yes, my name's LaVal Ezell. I am also a certified life coach. And basically what I do is I bring women together. First of all, individually, I want them to be aware of their own self-esteem, their own self-worth. That is so important. And a lot of times, women don't take the time to get to know themselves. And I'm saying to the core, there are some things that you will learn at the core. There are some things that you will learn along the way as you develop relationships. So getting her to identify, who am I? Who has God called me to be? Then she is able to connect with other like-minded women who have also started that same journey. So the organization that I founded is called Striving in Sisterhood. We are always striving to become. And so as we all are becoming, we're journeying together. And so I bring women together. I conduct workshops, as you were speaking before. I teach women about the levels of friendship. But first they have to be a friend to themselves before they can even be friends to others. So as they're evolving and learning that information, I've also created an event called the Sister Sit and Chat. And that is an event for women who are already in this community. They're already journeying in life together, getting to know one another, getting to know each other's creative side, spiritual side, natural side, that kind of thing. And we come together and we encourage each other. You would not believe at the conversations that we're able to have at the Sister Sit and Chat. So women are ready to move forward. They're ready to grow. They're ready to evolve. And that's a community that I'm actually creating. And it's a movement because women need friends. You have to have friends. And especially if you are an emerging leader and you're trying to find who you are, you have to have that space of community that is going to help you in that process because you cannot do that alone. So
Absolutely.
that is what I do.
That's a beautiful thing. And to even touch on that, one of my mentors always told me everybody knows who a Kirk Franklin is or these celebrities, but nobody knows the background story on who inspired them. And I always believe that your next great leader isn't on the screen. It starts at home in your community. It's that person that has it in them, but you have to install that information. You have to have the belief in more. And I think that's right on time, because I would tell any woman, when I grew up, little girls had best friends.
Yeah.
Grown women had best friends. Now you have friend girls. You have acquaintances, no new friends. So
Yeah.
it's a lot that goes on in society, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
A whole nother topic. That's why I'm going to exit stage left on that. Background information. I don't want to make it seem like I know Tiffani in depth on that, because I've always seen her. I've always thought Tiffani had her own thing about her. She marched her own drums, no matter if it was her chocolate skin or full lips or the way she was developed. She was in yearbook. She was doing a lot of things. And the reason why I was so inspired to have you on the show is because I believe that when people know you from your past, they never take the time to know where you are currently.
Yeah.
And accept that. So if you can give us a little bit about your past, because I'm kind of familiar with it a little bit, and then I would love to know where Ms. Ezell, as far as where she grew up and more, and then we'll go ahead and dive into some more things.
Now, when you say like my past, you want me to go back to like where I was raised? Is that what you're looking for?
Kansas City. I mean, you can give us a little background as far as
Okay.
Kansas City, Washington, to where you are.
Okay. So, I'm originally from Kansas City, Kansas. I got to throw that in there. And so born and raised there, I've always had a gift for the arts. Mm-hmm. And I'm a writer first and foremost. That was my first passion. So I was writing stories. Ever since I was 5 years old, I was making up stories. And by the age of 8, I told my mother that I wanted to be an author when I grew up. And so, like I said, I was always constructing stories. By the time I got into high school, I started really getting into the fashion piece. And I thought to myself, you know what, I think I want to become a fashion designer. I used to draw my own designs. I don't think very few people know that about me, but I used to actually draw my own designs. And when I took a sewing class, I was like, nope, this is not for me. There's a great deal of patience that goes into sewing, and that it just wasn't for me. And so then when I got into college, I majored in journalism, and I wanted to be on the backside of the writing part of it. I had people around me really pushing me for me to go on the broadcast side, and I did not want to be on television.
Really?
But it's so funny. No, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I even told because my dad even spoke that into my life, like, Tiff, I see you on television. You're going to be on television one day. And I was like, no, like, you know what? I feel like you have to be made up all the time. You have to be on all the time, makeup. He said, you do that anyway.
Absolutely.
But so it's crazy how that all happened. But just to really just go into the part of me even becoming a coach and a wardrobe stylist and really taking this thing seriously, I had a very major meltdown in 2012. I've always kind of suffered from depression and anxiety. So this is where the mental and emotional, okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. This is where the mental and emotional aspect comes into what I do and what I talk about as a coach, because of my own pain and suffering through that and my struggles throughout my entire life. And so toward the end of 2011, I just finding myself very unfulfilled and unhappy, and was very anxious and just having a lot of fearful thoughts. And at that time, I started losing sleep and having insomnia. So I was getting anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night. And so this particular morning, actually in January of 2012, I got up to go to work one morning and just was not mentally there. And I was hearing voices, saying that I was going to have to kill myself, and I'm not even a suicidal person.
Right.
And it was around that time that my coworkers, they were praying women. So they were like, no, that's not God. And so at that point, my manager got involved, and she put me in the conference room, and she called the police. And so the police and the EMTs came to my job. And the next thing, all I remember is that from that particular day is that I was standing on top of the conference room table as the EMTs were pleading with me to get off the table. And I said, no, I have something to say. And the next thing I remember is that I'm on the ground and I'm tussling and they're trying to, apprehend me. And they put handcuffs on the back of me, walked me out of the building, put me in the back of the police car and admitted me to psychiatric care.
Okay. And that's something that I never knew about. And I appreciate you sharing, because I believe being vulnerable and sharing things could prevent people from waiting that long for not understanding who they are. And it's good to have somebody to breathe with and more. So I truly appreciate knowing that about you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have more to add on to it, or?
Well, it was at that place where, I took some time off from work and, I am a woman of faith. And so during that time away, I heard God specifically say to me that I was going to have to go back and face my fears. And I thought, what are you? No, because at that time, the entire encounter had made its way around the entire office. And I was just like, what are these people going to think about me? They're going to think I'm bipolar. They're going to think I'm schizophrenic. But little did I know that God was actually placing me on a path to becoming whole and getting delivered from some of those generational past traumas and struggles that have been passed down from generation to generation. So I had to really look at some things and deal with a lot of things for the last 8 years, which is why I became a coach, which is why, I am a wardrobe stylist, because it's about addressing the total package of a woman.
Absolutely. I totally can agree with that and understand that, and have seen, witnessed that, and went through things myself. For me, playing sports and just dealing with people and family and emotions and more. So I totally can understand where you're coming from. Miss LaVal,
Yes.
where you from?
Well, I am from Little Rock, Arkansas. And yes, Little Rock, Arkansas. And I actually moved to Texas at a young age. So I moved here, had a daughter. I actually, at the time, became a single parent and raised my daughter. And at that time in my life, I was becoming, didn't know. And so with me moving to Texas, I was a young woman. Of course, I had a very positive, influential woman, but you still need friends. So being here in Texas, not knowing anyone, I was searching for women that could encourage me and pour into me and be just that big sister to me. Didn't find it. I mean, I found out it was like the women that I found, I was a little bit more mature than they were. And I thought, what is this? Not being able to find quality women to befriend was an issue. And so in my heart, I was like, you know what? I want women to, I know what it feels like to not have quality friends. Now you can just go find a friend anywhere, no doubt. But a quality friend is what we need. And so for me, I was already, I was very loyal as a friend, even as a little girl. My first best friend, 5th grade, she moved away to California. I kept up with her for years until we were adults. And so that seed of friendship was always in my heart anyway. And so even being here, God planted that seed of friendship from a young girl. And so as I began to become committed in my faith, God began to bring different women in my life, and every woman has added something to my life. She's allowed me to evolve in a way I never would have thought that I would have evolved because of her influence in my life. And so over the years, that's where we get to this point, and Striving in Sisterhood has evolved to a whole nother place, because I've actually walked this journey with many women in my own life. So that's how I was able to identify women did not know how to be friends. That is a serious issue, not just then, but even now. And so that was the common denominator that I found in women that I would befriend. They would, even women that weren't my friends, they would say, well, I don't really have good friends. I have a few friends over here, but I don't really know if I trust them, or I wouldn't tell them, these things about my life, and I said, that is a problem. And so when those women identified that they were ready for friendship, I said, girl, come on over here with us, because I had already begun a sisterhood bond with my personal friends. And then it just evolved into more and more, which lead us to where I met Tiffani. And Tiffani didn't know it, but I actually was checking her out as a friend long before she was even paying attention to me.
Mm.
And it's one of those things that we both have evolved to a certain place in our life. But once we became friends, new things activated. And I always tell women is that you may be exposed to a woman, but it's not time for a friendship to bloom and blossom. There is a certain time that you have to know that there is this divine connection for you all to grow individually and together. And so that's where you see Tiffani and I coming together, and we are actually sharpening each other in this season of our life. So that's basically where my journey started up until this point, how I actually got into sisterhood, because initially I didn't know what this was because I hadn't even seen it before. So over the course of time, I've been seeing how God has been changing the lives of women through Striving in Sisterhood. And so it is even helping me evolve to another level.
And I think that's beautiful. One of my, my pastor, when I moved to Texas, and that was only by faith because I came with nothing, but it's so incredible to hear that, because when you think of young ladies and women, you think of a softer side, a little bit of catty, but more acceptance, versus when I went to our male retreat, and he was like, look, if you can't be friends, if you can't hang around men, something's wrong. Because I have a lot of female friends and they're genuinely friends and more. And that was my pocket. That's my comfort zone, because me trying to meet other males, as you said, I'm kind of an honest person. I'm kind of a black and white person and more of a humane person instead of going with the flow. And it's hard meeting men to have guy friends. And that's what inspired me to attend the church that I go to, because when they closed the Bible and I heard the men saying the verse, I said, oh, they hold each other accountable. They're familiar with each other. This is where I needed to be in my particular point of life, because churches before, friends before, fly by night, we should get together, we should hang out. But the accountability portion is what made me feel uneasy until I learned acceptance and had to face myself and then place myself and grow with more people. So that was definitely important.
Yes. And that's the reason why people today don't have friends, because when you're talking about you getting close and intimate, boy, it's work. It is work. You have to be transparent. You have to be vulnerable. And a lot of people are not ready for that.
Absolutely.
But it is the best investment that you can make in your life.
And it cuts out anxiety. I didn't realize I had anxiety until I had to hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
I really didn't understand that. Now I've done my homework a little bit. So around 2016 is where you all met. Tell us about the background of your friendship, because seeing you all work now versus what I've heard of the growing portion, it was incredible. It was funny, but it was incredible too.
Well, I'm going to start out because Tiffani tells you her background, and she moved to Texas. And so she and I actually met through a mutual friend. And so we both were attending this event of a mutual person. And so I am one, because God has called me to do what I do. I am always ready for divine connections. So if God is like, you need to connect with her, I'm really in tune with that. So Tiffani was minding her own business, and I saw her. And Tiff, she in her own space, doing her own thing, looking fly at the time.
Was like that in high school too.
Yes. And so I said, and she was very poised. And I said, I wonder who she is, because by nature, I'm very quiet as well. And so I'm always intrigued by that person that's sitting and over in the corner, not saying anything, because those are the people that are powerhouses. They just don't know it yet. And so I actually said, I really want to get to know her. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but eventually over time, I was able to get her phone number, and I would just stay connected to her because I wanted to introduce myself to her as a potential friend. Now, she didn't know it. But eventually one time I text her, and we actually attend the same. Well, she goes to the church I used to attend. I moved away, but I still go back home and visit. So one time I was visiting, and I text her, and I said, hey, I wanted to know if you were at church today. I'm here, and I'd like to, fellowship with you a little bit. And she's like, who is this?
Mm, mm, mm,
And I
mm,
said,
mm,
she didn't even save my number.
mm.
I'm trying to be her friend and she didn't even save my number. I didn't get offended. And, you know, I tell women all the time, don't get offended because it is a process. It is a
Absolutely.
process. So I continually pursued her in friendship, and we still had that mutual friend. We ran into another event. And at that point, I'm like, she's going to know that I want to be her friend. So from that point, I identified myself. And I think it's basically, she'll tell you the other part is when her life was transitioning, that she was actually ready for my friendship. So I'm gonna let her take over the story from her point of view.
All
Yeah.
right.
So what she said is right on point. You know, when we connected in 2006, well, yeah, 2000, actually it was 2014, we reconnected.
It took a while.
It took a while because it was during the season I was going through a divorce, and I always, because we were connected on social media, and I always saw her do her Striving in Sisterhood events and whatnot. I knew she was a positive woman. I knew that she gathered women that were was of the same vein. So I said, okay, you know what? Let me reconnect with her and go to her event again. And it was from that point that our friendship started a spark. And what sparked it was we were having a conversation, and I was telling her how I had just became a certified coach. And she said, oh yeah, I'm a certified coach as well. And I said, really? And so that was the thing that really like drew us together. But yeah, it was one of those things. Like, what I learned is when we did eventually connect, I said, even though you were trying to pursue a friendship with me, I wasn't in the headspace where I was ready. Because for one, yeah, you know, for one, I hadn't did my own personal level of self-work. You know, I was a person who wasn't always very transparent or vulnerable. And as she was stating, like the levels of friendship, close and intimate, there's a certain disrobing that you have to do with someone when you're, especially if you're wanting to develop inner circle friends. And so I wasn't at that space, and she would have been asking me questions that I wasn't really prepared to answer.
Mm. And it's so funny how you'll talk about just the transitioning of friendships and more, because you just never know where somebody's been through traumatically with friends previously prior who promised to be friends to the end and things like that. And it's very inspiring that sometimes you got to let things simmer. It's not okay, you're my friend. Some people have to genuinely grow and things like that.
Now, Tiffani had, I'll tell you this. Tiffani felt like she had to explain herself because if you notice that she and I are pretty much night and day. Now, I think we have a lot of core principles that we believe in and we stand on, but personality wise, we're completely different. And so I was telling him before, I said, Tiffani, I said, when I befriended you, I already saw that. I said, I've already signed up for that. I said, who you are and who God has created you to be, I've accepted that, and I'm learning from that part of you. That is a part of her that I'm evolving in and being more free, being more aware of culture, being more aware of fashion. Those are the things that I need. So we actually have exchanged our gifting to one another, you know, and I feel like that is the most beautiful thing I have ever experienced, is where two creative people in two different areas of life are friends and are exchanging their gift with one another so that each one of them can grow in a whole new capacity.
Absolutely. Reciprocity is something that's so overlooked and unvalued, and as well as honesty. You know, show me who you are the first time. Let me deal with that and grow in love and grow in friendship and more. Um, Simple question. You ladies experiencing what you went through, um, by you ladies experiencing and learning who you are, no matter if it's traumatic, no matter if it's life, no matter if it's in you, at what point prior to being a life coach did you figure, hey, I need to be a life coach, I aspire to be it? And how do you become a life coach? So some people may not even know. What made you feel, hey, I want to take on this responsibility, I want to go through this emotional ride to become a life coach, to imprint yourself into other people's lives?
Yeah. I think for me, I've always have had people coming to me and just sharing some of the most very private parts of their lives that they had never shared with anybody. And
Mhm.
before I really understood my gift of why they were doing that, I used to ask myself, like, why do people keep doing this to me? Why are they unloading on me? And
Mhm.
when I started really unpacking that and understanding, it was like, oh, well, I bring such a level of comfort and peace, and people didn't feel like I would judge them. And so I always had a fascination with helping people, seeing people evolve and transforming and becoming their best self. And so
Mhm.
I looked into that. I looked at becoming a coach because I didn't want to go into counseling because I wanted to be that person that would hold you accountable to, okay, where are you today? And how do you want to get to where you're say that you want to get to for the future? That's what
Mhm.
I enjoy most about coaching people. And so I knew that that was just the best route for me. And
Mhm.
so I actually signed up for a program, and it was like a 6-month program. And that's how I became a coach.
Okay. Okay.
Now, for me, I actually noticed how even for myself, I was evolving and becoming. And so even when you become a life coach, you have to go through the journey yourself,
Absolutely.
first of
Absolutely. Yeah.
all. And so as you're going through the journey yourself, um, you have this desire in your heart to see other people do the same thing. And so for me, like Tiffany was saying before, I'm always that person that is a good listener. I am a good encourager. And that was just part of my DNA. So it just kind of went hand in hand. I was willing to go through my own personal journey and my own development, because when you go through your own journey, you understand the grace that someone needs. You have that empathy that a person needs to evolve. We all mess up. We all make mistakes and have to go through that process of learning, however, that whatever that looks like
Right.
for each individual. And so people have to have support. And so I felt like God was calling me to be a great support system for individuals. So it just all went hand in hand. And I love seeing people evolve. Like even just watching Tiffany evolve. We talk about from the point that I met her,
Yeah.
night and day. When
Yeah.
when I met her versus how she is today, night and day, completely different person. Even just her evolution as us being friends and us talking on a daily basis. I
Mhm.
mean, it is incredible to just be on the front row seat. She let me sit on the front row seat and seeing her transition, good, bad, and ugly. And we do
Right.
that for one another. And so that's really important too. So I just love to see people evolve. I've actually mentored for many, many, many years, and it's just a part of my heart.
Mm.
So it's just, I think it is something that you have to have in you already. And
Yeah.
then your life is, adds other elements to you even being a life coach and just learning how to be there for people and support people and hold them accountable, allow them to
Mhm.
be transparent without that judgment.
And I think that's
I love it.
important.
I
That's
love doing it.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of life coaches out here who don't realize it may be a calling, that are decent, real people, because a friend of mine called me an empath because she was like, you understand people, you know what the outcome is going to be, and you still take on that responsibility. And that leads me to asking, as you're evolving and when you become this life coach, and if you take it seriously, which I know you ladies do, and some people, or you have people writing books here and there or proclaiming it on social media fame, how do you feel as far as an outlet? How do you relieve the stress? How do you get over some of that? What have you learned about yourself saying, hey, I might write more, or I might paint, or, if you have a fella or a husband, does that, how does that affect your well-being, how you feel today? How do you release the stress of what you're hearing or seeing young women go through prior to them building? Because some
Yeah.
women will build and go forward, and some people just don't make the cut, whether they circle back around. How does that leave you feeling? Do you feel heavy, or?
I will say, it is having a lot of self-care for yourself when you're in that
Mm,
that industry emotionally. You have to make sure that you are at your best level and that you do have things that you do to relieve stress, just such as exercise, doing something you enjoy, relaxation, and so you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. But I also feel like because you have a gifting, I'll just speak for myself, because I have a gifting for it, it's basically like even just it's more of fulfillment of seeing that person evolve, even if it's in a negative place. Yes, is it irritating sometimes that, it's like, let's get this person to move. Like, are you going to move? But I feel like because it's your gifting, you have a little bit more grace in that area. But it definitely is self-care first, making sure that you can handle the weight of someone else. But I feel like God has just equipped us to carry those types of burdens because he's using us. And then just keeping yourself in prayer and allowing God to pour into you. That way you always have something to pour out. So you have to be full in your own cup before you can pour out.
Yeah, most definitely. Everything that she just said, about, we have to first go through the process ourselves, to be able to have the capacity to hold somebody else's stuff, even though it's heavy. And people have shared with me some very heavy things. And even though I get pulled in because I feel like I'm an empath as well, I can definitely feel people's feelings and emotions and things like that. And I have to learn how to just like release it and turn away and release it. And like you said, you do want to see people win. You're an advocate. You want to be their champion to be like this, but you also have to know too that you can't do the work for them. She and I say this all the time. You have to be ready. You have to be ready for this work. And there's a reason why so many people won't do the work, because it's a lot. It's a lot of uncovering. It's a lot of unveiling. And but for me personally, I just have to make sure that I'm pulling back if I see that I'm becoming too involved and that person is not really wanting to put in the work. I have to kind of like start phasing myself and pulling myself back. But also, like she said, making sure that you're getting adequate amount of sleep and knowing who is your assignment. Everybody is not your assignment. You may see somebody that you may want to help, but that may not be the person that you are assigned to help, and you have to be okay with that. Don't take on more than you can handle, and it's okay.
I never thought about it that way.
And I think that in the natural and in prayer, that if a person is ready, it's going to manifest smoothly. Yes. If they're not ready and you have to drag them kicking and screaming, and it is putting a lot of pressure on you, it's not a good fit and they're not ready. And we have to be okay with that. Even as life coaches, we have to be okay when a person is not ready.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I believe my pastor said sometimes something about talking to young ladies. She was like, hey, if you have to ask 17 people to get a yes, 16 people told you no. So you're still not ready. And I believe in my friends of the test, I always tell people, if you don't want to know a real answer, don't ask your real friends. Ask those other friends. Yeah. Oh. And I think that's so important because listening to you ladies, and I appreciate it. And I love how you're putting God in everything, no matter if you're verbally saying it, but I can tell that you're women of the faith. The reason why I loved learning more than the fashion portion and start listening to what you all were doing is because have you seen results in how men are benefiting from you spending time with these? I just want men to understand that, being a man is one thing and XYZ, leader and king and, all of that. And it's so many layers and textures to me dealing with women, period. Mm-hmm. It's so much. It's not just the vulnerability. It's just the makeup of women. What have you learned or have you heard of praise reports of how men are benefiting from it, or even watching you all work? Have you noticed men are trying to do the exact same work a little bit harder? Because, we're competitive. Man's day got to be man's day, but y'all show up and show out.
I remember one day when I was getting ready for my workshops and I was, he hears me talking to other people on the phone about the levels of friendship. And he said, hey, what are those levels again? He was interested. Yeah, he was interested and intrigued by it because he was beginning, because the thing of it is that once you learn about those levels of friendship, you start doing assessments. You're like, oh, well, that I thought that was a close friend and they still act casual, you know? So you start doing these assessments and you start paying attention to the relationship. And is it mutual? Is it one-sided? You know, those are the things that you need to identify for yourself. You don't really have to announce it to the other person. You just do a self-assessment and saying, you know, is there a purpose in this friendship? And so, yes, my husband has also been embracing this information and examining, and, you know, I always ask questions too, examining relationships that, you know, he's connected to or we're connected to as far as couples as well. But even in Striving in Sisterhood, this experience has helped them to become a better woman, to find a mate that is designed for them. So I have had praise reports that women have evolved from learning this information and have now found someone who God has designed for them, and they know it. It's not like they're guessing about it, because they've taken the time to know themselves and knowing how they connect with other people, what they need in a relationship. You have to know what you need. That's a deal breaker. Like if you're going to be close, I need, you know, I need this, I need consistency, or I need honesty. I need you to be understanding. I need you to have a listening ear. And if you're not able to do that, you're going to stay at casual with me.
And I think it's important to add, like you said, the consistency, but you have to go further and say, what does that look like for you? Because for me, like when I started identifying, like, especially in the area of close and intimate friendships, yeah, this person may be consistent, but they're consistent only in this area. They're not consistent in this other area. So then I could be disappointed because I'm like, well, you're not really coming through for me. I can't trust you in this area, although you are consistent over here. So you have to be able to know what that looks like for you, because otherwise, how would you be able to communicate that, whether that's in your friendships, in business partnerships, or even like your intimate relationship, spouse, boyfriend, or whatever the case may be. So this information that she teaches, it goes across the board in every area of your life.
Well, let's just jump into this, what I like to say, or what I wrote down in my notes. Let's go ahead and get into the divine connection with these friendships. Because this step 1, 2, 3, and you can elaborate on each one. And even though this is a seminar that you're giving, I totally can relate to it. Understanding that I'm kind of an upfront kind of person. Hey, I'll tell you the truth the first time. I will lie to you the second time. That way you now have a 50-50 chance of hearing what you really want to hear. That's sometimes the way that I approach things, because I don't feel like giving my honesty. Sometimes you get tired of repeating the same thing. My answer is going to be my answer. But when you deal with the way that you have the acceptance, the casual, well, I'm not going to say it all. Just explain where your viewpoint is in this friendship thing, because I know that y'all collaborate in. I love it because you both explain the seasons or the meanings behind that, because I love that armor. The women of armor. Oh, it's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, now, are you wanting to talk about the levels of friendship?
Yes.
Okay. So in the levels of friendship, we all are very familiar with acquaintance, because we have a lot of acquaintance. If you hear people say, that's just my acquaintance, you know, someone that you meet in passing, or, you know, you may meet them one time, or you discover you're working with someone who, you know, that probably won't be a friend, and you're just very casual with them. You see them walking down the hallway, or you see them at church in passing. You don't know much about them. You might get to know their name and just maybe some general things about them, and they just remain there, and you just continue to pass by them and, hey, how you doing? You good today? And that's as far as it'll go, you know. And then you get to the casual, and no, let's see, we said acquaintance.
Casual's next.
Casual, okay, yeah. So casual, you're actually just learning. I know you got your notes. You're getting general information about them. You know, you may still have something in common with them, whether you're always in the same place with them. And you may learn a little bit more than their name. You may know that, they work at this place, they went to school there, they were born in this city or state. You may have some small commonalities with them. You may have the same team that you like, or you may want to shop from the same store, just general information, public information. And it just kind of stays there. And then the next level, let's just say you're talking to them and you hear some other conversations that pique your interest. Like, oh, so you like, let's just say for men, you all like the same team. So you continue that conversation, which leads to other conversations. And you're like, they're pretty cool, and you continue that conversation depending on how often you communicate with this person. When you're in that space where it's what we say, help me with your notes. Let's see what you got. So we said,
let me see. When you're in the casual, you're learning how to be yourself. You're also learning how to be cordial. You're communicating. You're learning one another without rushing it, but you're poking and prying, trying to find the gray area where if I want to actually be honest and communicate and open up to somebody.
Yes. So you're beginning to communicate with them on a little bit more level. You're getting more of you're learning who they are. Kind of like on the surface, not the deeper parts, but just the surface things. And this is kind of where you can start at seeing that consistency. If you say, hey, are we going to meet up for drinks or whatever, coffee, dinner, did they keep their word? Do they have integrity? If they're not going to be there, did they call you? Do they have a level of respect for you, even in that area?
Yeah.
That's huge.
So you're beginning to see the character of that person, even in casual. So to me, people need to pay attention in that casual area. Do they even qualify to even go to close? Which typically it's going to even take a while for you to identify that, even in the casual area, in the casual level. So pay attention to those things, because that's gonna also show you what does the things that I need in a friendship, are they showing up at this level? Because if you're having difficulty with communication, the honesty, the integrity, whatever is most important to you, if you're struggling in the casual area, why would you go to close? Why would you let them in to another level when they're not even consistent in casual?
And do you feel that you have to hold yourself accountable to express?
Yes.
You have to express who you are and not assume, well, I'm suffering in silence, or I don't like this, but you're not verbally saying it, so it continues.
Yes, because when that conversation happens, are they resistant? Are they offended? Are they, what is their posture when those conversations come up, even in casual? Because that's going to identify if they can even handle a close and intimate friendship. Because a lot of times we move people to close too soon.
Absolutely.
And then we're wondering why. And you've already spilled your whole life story and your secrets and your heart, and you've already told them all that, and they didn't even qualify to go to close.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
People, and Tiffani and I talk about this all the time. A close relationship could be years.
That's what I wanted to get on. I love the way that you had a time
friend for 30 years and you still at casual. But you think you're close because you've been friends for 30 years. And especially it gets difficult when you've evolved from, like you were saying, people know you from your past. And as you've evolved in becoming who God is calling you to be, they don't recognize who you're becoming. They only see the person in the past, and they don't give you room to develop and evolve. They're always talking about that old person rather than who you've become. And that becomes a strain on the friendship as well.
Absolutely. I truly believe that. Sounds like my mic's off a little bit. Is it
but
still
pay attention to those. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Pay attention to those signs too, because you have to identify what you need in a friendship and really evaluate it in more than just one relationship, because it shows up differently depending on the friend.
Mm, that's a lot to think about. Um, Stemming from the closeness and more, do you feel like that's where you sometimes run into women of armor versus being able to let it down, saying, hey, I've had this friend for this long, this amount of time, and now all of a sudden we're not as close, or you discover things, or it's a fracture instead of a clean break? Do you feel that's what determines just ladies dealing with ladies as far as building a friendship?
Well, you know, I feel like as women, a lot of times we have strengths. Sometimes those strengths can be negative. And a lot of times those strengths where we're a strong woman, but we need to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we don't allow ourselves or give ourselves permission to be vulnerable. And that becomes a problem when you get into a close relationship, because when you discover that someone can cross over from casual to close, you have to have done a lot of examination of the attributes that you both have. Is it a mutual decision, on the friendship first, even before you go to close? Because a lot of times I hear people say that when I'm listening, the friendship is one-sided.
Yeah.
One friend always is all in, and the other one is kind of like, I could take it or leave it, or, I'm not as committed to you as you are to me. And it has to be mutual to cross over into close. And so a lot of women, they either hold back or they give too much. And both women have to be willing to go all in, as far as being vulnerable. And when you don't have that, that mutual respect for one another to say, well, I'm going to show you, it's kind of like, I'll show you my wounds and you show me yours. A lot of times there's only one person showing their wounds. And it turns into, I go and expose all your secrets to other people because you show me yours, but you don't have anything on me.
And I think that's important, because sometimes in relationships or even with the world, I think that if you're naturally a giver and you desire and you aspire, and that's your guilty pleasure of feeling good after assisting people genuinely from the heart, it's a bad feeling when you're left kind of feeling naked. Like, I've offered this, and I have a quote that I say, I feel like I live in a world that's obese and I'm anorexic, but I'm still holding a wooden spoon. I'm still feeding instead of me learning how to take it in. And I believe that you and Tiffani touched on that. Just about, I understand the quote of putting your own seatbelt on first before you can help other people. And that's my season that I'm in. And I love how it correlates, because your empowerment as far as what you're doing is so awesome. But yet the twist comes when Tiff comes in with the raspberry beret and make people feel good with the styling. And I love fashion. I used to work at R&B at Oak Park Mall. I have 5 sisters, from full and fine to slim and more. And I do think that the way you feel and trying different colors and make things pop, and just being able to see yourself in the mirror differently plays a role. And I wanted to know, when did you find out, hey, if I can just add a bow here, or get you out of your hound's tooth and let's go ahead and put some color to this? When did you know that it connected spiritually for you, and how did you figure that it will basically add on to your life coach style?
Now, for me or for Tiff?
We start with, well, whichever one. This is y'all story. I know how it goes.
Well, okay. So I will tell you, as far as me meeting Tiffani, and let's just say we stayed, because we give our story of the levels of friendship, which you probably watched. And so as we became friends, we remained in casual a little bit, where we're getting comfortable. Well, I think Tiffani was probably trying to get more comfortable with me, because I'm very conservative, and she called me the super Christian. So she didn't feel like she didn't feel like she could be really good friends with a super Christian. So she already had preconceived ideas about me receiving who she was authentically.
And I agree with that.
And I feel like even as individuals, we have to know, you talked about the divine connection. When God is divinely putting 2 people together for friendship, it is going to be uniquely different. But what you will find is that that person will embrace who you authentically are. And you don't have to explain yourself. You can just be. And that person will be intrigued by who you are. And so to me, that from my experience, that's how you know that God is divinely doing something different, because it is something you've never experienced before. They are allowing you to be who you are. They're allowing you to evolve. They're allowing you to share your heart and communicate. And I'm telling you, that's not something that you can just find on the street.
It's organic.
It's organic. And so because we both were feeling that in this friendship, we were like, wow, okay. And I really had to examine myself, because as we were going through this, Tiffani and I actually have evolved into, I would say at this point, an intimate friendship. But even me, myself, I had to say, man, how many times have I even experienced close and intimate, I'll say more intimate friendships over the course of my lifetime. And I want to say, as far as intimate, she's probably the first, because it takes a while for you to even allow yourself and be vulnerable enough and willing to go to intimate.
And that's not
so
even
very few people have intimate friendships because there's so much work involved in unrobing who you truly are from the core.
And just the title of it, we don't grow up hearing about intimate friends as far as just being a platonic friend level. When you're thinking intimacy, you think of being with somebody else and romantically inclined and marriage and more, but you genuinely need to have intimate friends. And that's why I tell people, and I notice that you can have all the friends you want, but when you get married, you have to discover new friends that don't know your past, that's going to encourage you and take you for face value and move forward. And the mixture of that, I believe, when you were talking about, sometimes you got to separate away from friends and more, that plays a part. And that's why when I saw the fashion, I was like, okay, Tiff, I see you. I truly see. I'm paying attention, because she was flying high school. She marched to her own drum. Not to say anything, but I think that women are beautiful in all shapes and sizes, or whatever your features are. And, coming from where we're from, it's a lot of great people, beautiful women. And I feel like if younger women had visuals to see other than what's given to them by ratings that continue to go, they would aspire to be the next Miss DeVonne. They would aspire more like that. And that's why I wanted her here, not only to represent where I'm from, but to say I appreciate your growth. And that's why, being a life coach, how did you intertwine the fashion portion of it?
Yeah, it was very interesting, because when I started recognizing that I couldn't keep the two separate, and I knew that I wanted to merge fashion and mental and emotional health, and people were like, huh, like what? That like it almost seemed like it didn't go together, but it actually does. And so at first I started off with talking about the mental and the emotional aspect, and I just showed up in that environment, bringing my fashion aspect to it. And so then once I got comfortable in that lane, then I kind of like let that go for a little bit. And then I started teaching about say it with style, like how do you want to present yourself? And then in 2019, 2020, I said, I'm going to bring these both together. This is not something that you really see too often, because once, most people who are wardrobe stylists, they are strictly wardrobe stylists. That's all they focus on. Bring that aspect into it. So I feel like I'm really just kind of blazing a path and really designing what that looks like for me. And in the area of like with LaVal and I first started styling her in 2015, and it just came about with, I knew she was getting ready to teach a workshop. And so I just asked her a very basic question, like, what are you wearing? And she told me what she was wearing. And I said, no, that's not going to work.
Now, how close was the friendship at this point? Was that casual? Was that close?
It was casual.
Yeah, it was casual, because it has evolved over time. But this is the thing. I had to trust her gift. And really what God had put in her was stirring up my gifts. So I was already operating in my gifts, But because of her gifting, she's like, oh no, you have to prepare for more. So like I said, in those friendships, that person is going to see your end and they want to be involved. They want to get their hands dirty in helping you with your success. If you don't see that in a close friendship, it's not going to make it to intimate, because that's the difference between even close and intimate, is that now they are a part of your journey. They're not just sitting back watching you do it. They are now involved. They are now giving their resources. They are now praying with you. They are now holding you accountable and questioning you on, I thought you said your goal was X, Y, and Z by this date. What's going on? What can I do to assist you and help you? That is the difference between close and intimate. Now we are personally responsible for helping one another win. Yeah. So I love that about our journey, is because she does not let me get off easy. When I say, oh, I don't feel like, coming at my best, she's like, no, ma'am, we are going to do that. And as she's began to share, like you were saying, if God is evolving you as a leader, you have to show up at your best. And it does start internally. So I'm very conservative by nature, but I was ready to go to the next level. I've actually done, a lot of transitioning in the way that I carry myself and present myself, but it was as much as I could do, because I didn't have that creative mindset like a wardrobe stylist. So I needed assistance. And so she was willing to get in there and help me and tussle with me. And I'll let her tell that story. But as she began to tell me what God was giving her, I could actually see that in myself. So as she was styling me, I felt differently. I was receiving different responses from individuals, and they were, really paying attention to not what I was just wearing, but what I was saying, and it was going to a whole nother level. So it is so true that the Say It With Style portion of her gifting, it's real. It's real, because as people have even been watching me, they've seen me gain more confidence in what God is calling me to do. And so it's just enhancing what was already there. And that's what Tiffani does. And I saw that, and I had to learn to trust her, the God in her that is very uniquely designed. Matter of fact, she gave me insight. I mean, I did create the style, but she was like, okay, she'll give me insight about this works, this doesn't work, and why. Because I will always want to know why I can't wear this, and instead of that. Right. And it's not about her telling me what to wear, but it's more of really educating me so that I can learn to do that for myself.
Right. And that all started with her looking at your outfit saying, no, you're not going to wear that. Like,
yes. And we tussled, because she was like, that doesn't go together. I haven't seen anybody wear that. I said, well, you have to understand, as a stylist, I'm going to put you in things that may not be popular in the norm. And so she was just kind of very hesitant. And so then that's when I brought in the piece of suggesting to her, okay, you need to get your makeup done by professional makeup artists. And once she got on board with that and she saw the total package, I think she, it was at that point that she really bought into, oh, like, wow, this is it. And, for the last 5 years, every time she's done a workshop or whatnot, I always ask her, are you going to get the makeup artist? I mean, like, you have to be consistent in this, because like I said, you don't want to wait till an opportunity presents itself and then you're scrambling to get ready. You want to be already ready. You want to have already been doing the work behind the scenes. So, because we've been doing this for the last 5 years now, and we get to be on platforms like this, the 3% show, we're ready because we've been doing it behind closed doors, when no one knew. We're sharpening ourselves. And so I just really, like, for me, it's been a pleasure watching her the last 5 years, because she has evolved so much. I mean, like, when I met her,
did you see the before and after picture? I don't know if Tiffani has shown you before and after picture. The first time she styled me.
I said she looked like Miss Millie. I said she looked like Miss Millie. She was like, I wasn't coming. Yes, you were.
I've been watching, I think, the last year and a half, maybe two.
Okay.
Maybe two.
This this is an older one. We'll have to do an updated before and after, but yeah. And she said, no, that was that day you came out the house looking that way. That is a true picture of what you look like at the moment. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's an extreme difference. But what I will add is that we as women have to learn to invest in ourselves. And the fashion journey it's not about all about the clothes on the outside, but are you truly desiring to invest in yourself is the question. Because we spend a lot of money on whatever we want. We just have to be really specific on what we're going to spend our money on, because we could say, oh, a makeup artist costs too much and I could do it myself. It could be true. But when it is something important, are you willing to invest in yourself? And so I learned that investing in myself was very powerful. And I appreciate you, Tiffani, for pushing me in that area, because it has definitely made a difference in my life as far as being an emerging leader. You know, it's not always necessary in every situation, but it's definitely a great investment.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. It's so much that's coming in this, and hopefully the listeners will be able to understand and take to heart what you all are talking about, because you're speaking, not only speaking from the heart, but you're speaking to the everyday woman. You're speaking to the everyday girl, because like I said, I've always loved fashion. And when I worked at R&B, they go up to size 10, and I'm hearing women complain about, oh, it doesn't fit. And I'm like, love, you don't have the curves. You can't fill it out. Or when I see sisters walk through that have curves and might be full of fine size 12s and up, you know, I encourage them, as well as slim, just find what works for you, and don't be scared to try a little color. Don't fit in the box of what people tell you should be or what you directly look at. It's okay to try on clothes while you're in a store to see how they're going to fit in. I just love the way that people's confidence, because when I was younger, growing up in the projects in Rosedale, I didn't have anything, but because of my grandmother, the first time I saw Victor Newman and Brad Carlton walk across the screen, I said, oh, I want to wear a suit, I want a power tie, and I want this Obsession clone, because it smelled like they would wear Obsession. That's how powerful they look. It left a mental imprint that throughout Eisenhower and Fairfax and Washington, once I did become older, not only did I start seeing that, okay, Black men just don't wear suits to church. You don't have to be a deacon or suit or man's day. You can really be this assertive and be powerful from when you walk into a room, but you have to have something to say. You have to be about something in a way. So that's why when I looked at this and was like fashion, faith, and sisterhood, I immediately hit Tiff up a few times. I'm like, hey, I want you on the show, not just because, okay, I have a grassroots thing, but I'm like, your platform, what you have to say is so incredible. Where do you feel that you want your life coaching and the things that you're doing? What do you see in the future? How would you like for your future to be displayed?
Yeah, I want to be able to help women to see from all cultures and all backgrounds, just no matter where you are in life, it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70, that, you can always revamp and redesign your life. It's going to take work, but just giving yourself permission to see yourself in a different light, coming outside of your comfort zone, because I am that person that will do that. I've had to do it myself. I often tell people, I'm not going to stretch you and pull you in any area that I haven't did the work myself. So I understand the process. I understand that it can be very filled with tears. A lot of all kinds of emotions will come up, but if you stick with the journey, you will see something very beautiful on the other side of what you're going through. And so that's my goal as I continue to move forward through the Say It With Style platform and through the Silhouette of a Queen segment. It's just being able to be a voice and a champion for women to say that you really can come through anything if you put in the work.
Yeah. And you, Ms. Ezell?
I just want to continue to encourage women to not just learn about the levels of friendship, but start applying them in their lives. Start thinking more about what do you want for your future? As far as knowing who you are as a woman, that takes work for you to have the courage to say, you know what, God, who have you created me to be? Not watching what the world is doing, but being your unique self, because you will discover that God has created you very unique. And so you have to be willing to embrace, how did he create you? And, you know, for me, I'm a little square, and that's okay. That's the way that God has designed me. But I have the opportunity to change that just a little bit. That's comfortable for me. And I'm okay with that. And so I can't try to be like Tiffani, or I can't try to be like this other friend. I can only be me. And so I want to encourage women, just be you. And when you're you, you will divinely be connected with women that are doing the same thing. And they're going to encourage you to be you, not anyone else. And you're going to find women that are going to enhance who you naturally are. And you will discover that it's going to be so fulfilling to finally say, this is who I am, and be unashamed and be unapologetic. That's freedom. Absolutely. And I encourage every woman to be free in who God has called her to be. And it's a journey, but God will send you women. If you decide that you want to do that and you say yes to the journey, he will join you with women that will celebrate who you are. And that's what I've discovered in Striving in Sisterhood. I always say, if you see this picture behind me, I always say, God, what is the common denominator of these women that we're bringing together? But these women have decided, I'm going to be who God has called me to be. And that's the most freeing thing. And we have so much in common by doing that. Just be you.
That's a beautiful
and so
thing.
That's what I want women to understand. Being you is what God needs you to do, because if you don't become you, you can't evolve into what he's calling you to do. And I've seen that, like, even between Tiffani and I, you know, she tells you her story of where she was, but due to her having her courageousness, and even for myself being courageous and going through that process, God has given her all of the pieces of what he wants her to present to the world, which is going to be a blessing, and has been a blessing. The things that God has told her have blessed my life, you know, and it has held me accountable to not going back to that old woman. Definitely. And so that's what this is all about. With you even giving us this platform and sharing our sisterhood journey, it's blowing our minds at where we've come from and where we're going. As we're working together and telling our story, it is inspiring many women to really give a chance to friendships, because friendship is real and it's needed for you to Absolutely. Even just, you know, move and be creative and just enjoy the journey together.
Absolutely. And I truly believe that you have to be the best person you are, because everybody else is already taken. And to piggyback off of what you said, when you find out who you are, hopefully you found out earlier in life, but even if it's later in life, you're designed to carry a torch as far as it's supposed to go, because somebody's going to pick up that torch behind you. And we need to go ahead and get that outlet, just like on track. We need you to finish and run your course. So whoever it is, whether you know them or you don't know them, now have an advantage of carrying that torch further. In closing, because I want you all to give me all your information verbally, and I'm going to put it in the bio. But throughout our conversation, what do you think your 3% has been in life? What has brought you to the point to be able to speak on this particular subject and be who you are on your platform? What do you feel you really basically defined yourself?
I would say, you know, my 3% was definitely, I call it my breakdown of what happened to me in 2012, but it was actually a breakthrough, because it forced me to have to really look at some long-standing patterns and whatnot, and just really redefine my life, and to be able to push past the boundaries of what I thought could not be, this reality that I'm now creating for myself. So that's what I would say is my 3%. It's just really redefining my life. My breakdown was my breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Mine would be when I did discover a friendship that I was rejected through. And I had put all of my heart into this friendship, trying to hold on to it for dear life. And God was like, let it go. Let it go. Because we have to understand that every friendship may not last. It may just last for a season, and we have to be okay with that. And so as we move forward, as we're evolving, sometimes our friendships will change. And so by learning the levels of friendship, I was able to identify, okay, that season is over. It doesn't mean that I'm worthless. It just means that it was time for change.
Mm-hmm.
And so by me understanding, if I let that friendship go, I had to trust that God was going to bring me even greater friends that was going to help me evolve. And I will tell you this story.
That part.
Tiffany, when I let that friendship go, Tiffany basically came into my life and exposed more. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But when I let that friendship go because the season was over and it no longer served me for who I was becoming, when I did that, he brought me a new friend that was helping me go to the next level. But I had to trust that he would do it.
Want to replenish whatever you lacking?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I'll tell you ladies what, you're more than welcome. If you have any ideas or you want to use my platform, I open up to you all because I love and respect the people that you are, that I'm learning in your journey. And I feel like we need to water the village. We need to nourish the village. We need to give platforms now as opposed to waiting. I feel like over the last few years of me just watching Tiff's growth meant a lot to me because I'm a caring person. And when you see people from where you're from, number one, to have the courage to leave home is huge to me because you have to relearn yourself. You have to reintroduce yourself to the world after you figure things out. So I just want to encourage you all, if you will, give us your information. And then I'm going to include it on the bio when I upload it.
Okay. So they can connect with me, Tiffani DeVonne. It's TiffaniDeVonne. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
All right.
Okay. My name is LaVal Ezell. I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram with my name, LaValEzell. And I also have a business page for Striving in Sisterhood on Facebook and Instagram. So it's under Striving in Sisterhood. And then if you're interested in moving forward, I actually do have a private group where I actually give all types of information, tips. We just have a lot of fun in our private group. So if you're interested in joining the private group, go and request and I will have you to join and you can join our community and just learn more about what we're doing. And this year we are going to have a virtual Sister Sit and Chat in February. So you'll be able to experience that. And typically we would do that in person, but due to COVID, we are making those adjustments and we're still going to continue to evolve in this community. So if you are really looking for a community of women that will be very inspiring to you, like we said, you have to be ready for this process, okay? So if you are ready, connect with me on Striving in Sisterhood and, follow me personally. So thank you guys for having us here today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on the heels of the inauguration where you saw two sisters dressed up and memes everywhere. And
yes,
I was going to wait to put it on, but I'm actually going to upload this on the 27th on Wednesday. I have to have it because I feel like that energy, no matter if it's Chucks and Pearls, just what you ladies are doing. Like I said, my door is always open. Email is always open if you ever want to come back on, if you have events. I truly appreciate and admire what you've given me today. I promise I'm gonna have a different background because she had her background popping. I said, "Oh man, let me at least turn the lights off." But more than anything, I celebrate you. I give you your roses now for the work that I've personally seen you do, and that's what made me want to have you on the show. And I look forward to talking to you all again. This will be uploaded. Please share, whatever the case might be. And for the listeners, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification. I think that's what they say. I don't like being in front of the camera. If it was talk radio, I'll be all right. But thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies. You all have a wonderful day, and we're going to
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right.